from TRICHOMES.com. I'm Daisy Kitamura, and this is Tech and Cannabis. I talk with game changers in the tech community to gain valuable insights into the future of the fast-paced cannabis industry. Today, we're joined by Cullen Raichart of Greenbroz. Greenbroz specializes in machinery that automates tasks like trimming, grinding, and sifting. We talk about how he turned his passion for inventing things into one of the industry's most reliable manufacturers, why the desire for constant improvement is key, and how Greenbroz is positioned to be the go-to brand for automation in the grand future of cannabis. All right, and today we have Cullen Raichart with Greenbroz. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I guess for those that are listening out there, tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, we're an equipment manufacturer and a design engineer company, right? So I manufacture everything that we design and engineer in-house. Everything that we design is focused around cannabis and on cannabis specifically. So we are kind of, we call ourselves industry born. It's kind of a term we've coined. And because we focus solely on how you manage and handle cannabis throughout the different operations that it needs, it's a different animal than oranges and apples and potatoes and bananas and onions and anything else you could think of. Nothing else is quite as delicate, if you will, when it comes down to how you manage and process it. So we take the focus there toward how do you make the best quality product, and then we make machines that do that quickly. So
Gotcha. So more like trimmers and grinders and things like
yeah,
that.
Yeah. So grinding, trimming, right now sorting, sifting, separating. And then it's just kind of like I can't do everything. I wish I could. I have ideas about everything, but we can't do everything. But we focus pretty heavily on the trimming side of it. That's been our bread and butter. Our trimmer gives you almost a hand trim finish. I would say if you're not a connoisseur, then you would probably not tell the difference. And that if you are a connoisseur, you might be surprised at how good it is.
That's awesome. That kind of brings me to one point that I've kind of found when I was, looking at your company and, seeing you guys throughout the time. One big differentiator is you guys seem like you have a lot of passion for your product, versus some of the other guys that are creating the same thing. There's a different feel to it. So I guess, how did it all come about? Like, how did you get into creating machines for cannabis? Where did it all begin?
Well, myself personally, I've always been inventive. I was the kid that took things apart and then put them back together and fixed things. And I still fix things I shouldn't probably be fixing, but I'm trying to make them better. But that's just how my brain works. I think it's people go, how do you do that? I don't know how. It's just how my brain works, and that's a function of who I am. And so when I think about things, I'm always thinking about how to do things, a little bit better, or what the proper way of doing it is. And I was in growing side of it, and actually back in the time when you were getting $6,000 a pound, so it was like, why wouldn't you grow? It made sense, right? But I wasn't very good at that.
No.
Plants and I don't get along at all. I eat them, but that's about it. I have a hard time, that level of focus for me doesn't, and care. They're living things, and people who are really good at it have a relationship with the plant, and I don't connect like that in my thinking process. I'm very mechanical and linear, so I think about I connect to machines like that, and so I look at machines and go, oh, this thing is not functioning correctly. If I made it to do this, we could get to this end goal type of thing. So that's just how it kind of worked out. I was doing that, and I wasn't very good. I had grown it to a pretty decent size income or supplemental income, but I was really better at doing mechanical stuff, and I kind of found that niche and kind of stuck with it. So when it comes to cannabis and the mechanical side of it, we don't look at it like everybody else seems to look at it, like, oh, well, this is fast. This is how you do fast. We're like, well, this is how you do good, and this is how you do better. Then we talk about, can we make it faster? Because the speed is very important. But if it's your primary goal, you're going to lose. Like a lot of the competitors, especially in the trimming, they have a lot more trim, and they brag about their trim percentages of THC. It's like, well, if you've got a higher percentage of THC in your trim, it's probably because you're trimming the wrong stuff. You know, you don't want that's not the stuff you want in your trim. You know, but that's so we know the whole idea was like, well, why would you sit and hand trim, right? Is there a way to do that better? And that's kind of what drove the whole trimming side of it, you know. And I was watching my friend sifting with a t-shirt screen, you know, and he was making hash. It's like shaking it all over. I'm like, he's like, man, can you make me a machine that'll do this? I'm like, hey, no problem, bro. And I did, and that was the first machine I invented. I actually got a patent on that machine. We call it our Alchemist. It's actually one of the. I say this, and I can't verify this, but this is what I say. It's one of the first patents in the modern era that has cannabis in the language. So it's actually in the title of the patent, which we were really excited about at the time. I don't know if it's the first, but it's one of the earlier ones. It was back in 2012, 2013. So back when people were still like just adapting things that were coming from other industries, you know, and some ingenious guys had done some stuff in their own grows to be able to do this, that, or the other thing, and that's what I had done. Basically, it's gone. Well, I hate to trim, so I'm going to fix that. My friend hates to sift hash, so I'm going to fix that. You know, that's how it came out.
That's crazy. So basically, you saw stuff that had problems, or like, oh, I can make one better than that, or there's no machine for it. It's like I can build something like that. How did you become that guy? Like, you're like the Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Like, just tell him to make it. You know, like whatever you need, just tell him he'll make it. How did you end up that way? Did you go to school for engineering? Or
It's crazy. I mean, when I got out of high school, you know that high school test that you take that says like maybe what you could possibly do with your future. You know, I don't know if you took one of those, but we had this stupid test, and I just crushed all the mechanical stuff. Like, and it's just like, you should be an engineer, and it's like, oh well. And I was actually planning to go to Colorado School of Mines, but I got in trouble. And I don't really care for math all that much, although I can definitely handle it. I really enjoy mechanics. I just enjoy them. I love cars. I love airplanes. I love bikes, motorcycles. You know, I love those kind of things, and I love the way that what people are doing with those. I love the mechanical thought processes that go into that. It's just like the ideas and how do you make this thing work. It's a puzzle. It's a mental, conundrum that you're solving. And so for me, it's that. It's all about continuously pushing to do something a better way. Sometimes we get lucky and it's really good the first time, but most of the time you're spending years. I mean, we spent 5 years to master the grinder that we finally are now coming out with, and it's stunning. Like, there's nothing that compares to it. It's very simple, it's very basic, but we had to go through all these iterations to get to the point where we're removing stems and we're getting perfect particle sizing. Those things sound like simple things to do. Well, people have thrown all kinds of weird ideas at it, hammer mills and like coffee grinders or whatever. I mean, people have thrown cannabis through almost anything. And it's, and it works okay. I mean, weed whips, that's like the most popular thing out there is a weed whip in a can. It turns everything into dust. You got to kind of figure out how many times to pulse it. It's like, that's not automating. Automating is creating something that does a consistent, production or a consistent process over and over repeatedly and gives you a consistent output. I mean, what's the point? You have to have consistency. And so that's why I love machines. They do things well. That's a big deal. So anyway, I think I kind of lost track there a little bit, but that's just how I've always thought of things. I mean, from the very early on, I worked in my dad's print shop. I was taking stuff apart as a kid. I remember, burning, using lighter fluid in my lawnmower because I was like, oh, well, it's petroleum. And it should work, and it did. It's like, oh, this is cool. So, that's the kind of shit I did because I was just like, well, this logically seems like it should work, right? And then I would do stuff like that, and not everything comes out to be a positive, but in general, that's just, I mean, it really makes me, it kind of what makes me happy, and I think that's what's important when you're doing your labor, is that you enjoy it, and whatever that labor happens to be, it's nice that you can sit and enjoy that aspect of your life because you spend so much of your time doing it. And for me, it's been this pursuit, and I am passionate about equipment, but I'm also passionate about cannabis specifically because it's such an interesting challenge. Um, it's such an interesting problem to solve. It's so much different than anything
Right.
that's out there, and so I find it very rewarding. And I have a team of young engineers who are just really really good at 3D modeling and doing stuff like that. So we can brainstorm concepts and put it into action, and I can bring a product to a prototype to fruition in hours, maybe days or weeks
Wow.
at the most. We can really get in depth and very very detailed because of just what we've been able to invest in the company. So that's the most exciting aspect of the company. The rest of it is a manufacturing company that sells it.
Well, I mean, I think that excitement kind of like it's shown. Like you can see it. You could feel it with your products. Like you're always trying to
Yeah.
make it better, which is a huge component of making a good product. More people should do it that way. But I mean, so the grinder you're speaking of, is that the
Yeah,
juice
that's the
sleeve?
that's
Is that
the yeah.
the one that?
We just we it,
That's the
we
yeah.
we were very creative in our naming.
I, but I did see some stuff on that product. It was pretty
Thank you.
crazy how you were able to get all the particle sizes, the same
Hmm.
size. It packs the pre rolls, like way better than
Yeah.
any other grinder can. It's like a perfect pack every single time. So, but just watching you guys talk about it, you can tell like you guys
It's
are you
it's
guys are
it's
serious about this.
exciting.
It's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, when you got
Yeah.
a couple of young guys who have a little bit, they're MEs, so they've been through training, but as an engineer, you don't really get training until you get into business. You start doing work, and a lot of companies take these young guys and they put them into these silos, and they start by doing data entry, and they go through these regimented growth stages where,
Yeah.
and then you're working on this tiny little part, and then it's part of a big whole. But these guys are get to see a holistic idea around equipment, right? So we talk about what we want to do. We talk about how we want what we want to accomplish, and we talk about how we could accomplish it. And then we start talking about ways that have been done that's being used, and what the pluses and minuses are of those. And then we kind of strategize that way. And then these guys, we give it all in the plate, and then they get to eat. They get to go and they get to create, and they're on this the SolidWorks stuff, and they're making these machines, multi-piece machines, and it's just like really cool. But I let these guys run with their creativity, and then we'll come back and we'll look at it and we'll talk about things. Because I mean, I as the kind of lead of the department and the company owner, it's mostly where I want to go with stuff. But you have opportunities to start talking about well, this is we've experienced this is could be problematic, or this is going to be hard for us to build, or this is going to be hard to produce. And so there's all these conversations that go into it, and then at the end of the day, you bang out a machine and you see if it works, and if it does, you're like, yeah. But and it really, I mean, like I said, the grinder was 5 years, and a couple different people worked on it. And we thought we had it nailed a couple of different times. I mean, we really thought we had it nailed 2 years ago, and we are just like, God, we had created this thing, and once you started getting to scale, it just didn't work. And it was like
Mm,
so interesting that it would work really small scale. And I mean, we still might make it for a small scale thing, right? But it just didn't
yeah.
function once you got to be like guys who need to do a pound, a minute. Like this machine will crank out a pound a minute. And now we got it. So
Right.
it's kind of an interesting conundrum. But I mean, the other side of that too is it's just metal and motors, and then controllers. It's all pretty pretty interesting basic stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for a tech guy like myself, that sounds like the ultimate like profession is just be able to invent stuff and make stuff work. But I can see how it's like super fun to develop these things, but then super frustrating when they don't work
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's probably like the most frustrating thing on the planet at the same time.
Well, sure. Like that's
Yeah,
like any
no, that's cool.
project that
So
you get involved in, right? Like sometimes you work all day
yeah,
on a beautiful meal and it comes out bad. You're like, ah.
right,
Yeah, so
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Anyway,
So I mean, what's the next steps for you guys? I know your guys' vision is to like automize like
yeah,
everything you can
yeah.
automate basically. What's kind of next step right now that you guys are trying
Well,
to
yeah. So
trying
really,
to do?
it's such an interesting thing because we started talking about 3 years ago about end-to-end processing, and that's kind of the concept of putting cannabis in this side of a machine or a system and getting it out that side of the system in whatever form you want it to be in.
Mm,
Like, I say, well, I'm going to put in 100 pounds here, and I want 10 pounds worth of joints, and I want X amount of eighths, and I want X amount of quarters, and I want X amount of extract, and that all that should be happening within a system, right? And that's what real automation
mm-hmm.
is. If you go down to watch people, watch big ag work on. Well, now they do it in a truck. I mean, freaking wheat gets picked up in a truck and it gets husked and shelled or whatever and separated from the wheat and the chaff, and it goes into another. And the truck just keeps going. You know what I mean? And it's all just like it's all done almost right there. I mean, they're not going to packaging right there because it gets stored and gets sent out in bulk. But for a cannabis guy, you need to go basically into packaging almost, because you want to maintain the freshness, you want to maintain the value. You don't want to all this time in between is an opportunity for losing value. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really kind of sky's the limit. But cannabis isn't thinking that way yet. Some guys are because big
Right.
ag is coming in and guys from other industries are coming in and say this is not how you do this, guys. This is how it's really done. You have to go down this road of automation and so they're starting to, but there's nobody out there, who really can do that. There are companies and manufacturers who make systems who can do parts of it, but nobody's bringing it all together. And we feel like we're pretty poised
Mm-hmm.
for being in the lead as a company to kind of do that because that's the next step is you're bringing this whole solution to somebody so that then you have people who are running machines and you're getting consistent product, and then you're not having people who are responsible for all the different intricate details. It's done mechanically, so your product remains consistency becomes very very solid. If you think about and they're trying to do this, but interstate regulation is problematic. But if you think about a company, let's say Cookies, who has a wonderfully strong brand, their expectation is that if you have a Cookies product here, it's going to be the same as the Cookies product there, and that's the McDonald's idea, right? If you're
Right.
anywhere in the United States, that sandwich is
Mm-hmm.
going to taste the same. I mean, that's it's a good and a bad thing, but it's still an expectation, right? I mean, as a consumer, as a person who buys that stuff, that's my expectation is that I'm going to get a consistent product, and cannabis is right there, right? Multi-state regulation is
Yep.
creating these little mini boundaries, but the idealism behind it is, well, I have a product and I have a brand, and it needs to always look like this everywhere. So we're dealing with multi-state operators
Mm-hmm.
and talking with them about how you're going to do that, and then implementing equipment that makes all that make sense. And so it's funny. I think I almost separate tech and and mechanics in my mind because I always think of tech as being your
Mm-hmm.
iPhone and your apps and stuff like that, and your data collection and data management, which is all
Sure.
brilliant stuff. I just don't do it. So
Mm-hmm.
I have this kind of thing in my head where it's like, oh, tech. I don't know anything about tech, but I do know. But one of the things that happens is
Yeah.
is that like you need to feed back data from these machines, right? How many pounds
Mm-hmm.
do you lose over a cycle? How much trim waste in this product versus that product? How valuable is that trim? How valuable is the product that comes out of that? How many joints do you need to sell? What size of joints do you need to sell? All that's data that can be mined through your whole system. Actually, most of everybody has that metric in place. The data exists in there, and we're just talking about adding the mechanical data behind it, right? So so you can see, track your losses and track your value points all the way through your whole system. And then when you look at your mapping on your in your metric, you can say, wow, that strain that you're in love with wasn't really very good for you, because you need to have empirical data so you can understand what makes money. It's just because you have a feeling about something doesn't mean you're 100% right. A gut feeling is great, but you still, data to back it up is always a valuable thing. So that comes with automation, right? It's not just mechanical; it's also tracking, and especially with cannabis, because the needs around tracking are so high.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, all these huge companies that are going to start stepping in, when legalization, is more widespread. They don't do things the traditional way, like the smaller guys. They want things, like you said, like the McDonald's way. And, just knowing like the way you guys are operating, doing things almost like pharmaceutical grade, in the stainless. Is that for you guys kind of like the long-term goal? Do you think that you're going to be the player that's going to be approached by these companies?
I mean, that's ideally right. You have to prepare for market growth, right? And I can grow as fast as I can grow, but can I keep up? I don't know. And then the other side of that is, when somebody else comes into this market space who has a lot more capability, what are they going to do? And we've seen consolidation in the growing space of things. We've seen some consolidation in the mechanical side of things, and we've seen some consolidation in some of the other ancillaries. But that one of the things to do as what we consider ourselves to be an industry leader, because we're always pushing the envelope as far as new equipment goes. And I am absolutely guarding myself. I'm not guarding, I'm preparing myself. I need to be in a position where I'm attractive. If that comes along, I'm not necessarily going to be able to say no. I may not want to say yes, but I may not have an opportunity to say no, because the reality of business, especially business in this country, is that big business comes in and they consolidate. And so we want to be in a position where we're market leading, good brand, and great equipment. And the best thing we can always do is make the best equipment that we can, and then stand behind it, because ultimately at the end of the day, the equipment's all the neighborhood's ever going to remember anyway. And if you think back to like what Toyota did, Toyota came in, they got into the country and they made a car. I think the 22R. They had another one that was worldwide, the straight six, but the 22R was the motor that was going hundreds of thousands of miles, and nobody was doing that, And they've had many. I mean, Toyota is tons of failures throughout the history of that company and bad products, But you still know Toyota from the days when they made that motor and when they did that thing. And they're still a great company, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, they set the tone early on for their company, and that's what we've done. We came in very strong with. I've always used food safe material, even when our machines were made out of plastics. It was 100% virgin, high density polyethylene, 100% recyclable, no chemicals added, all NSF rated, all top quality material build. And we did that from the very beginning, knowing that if we set that standard now, reputationally, that's going to help carry us through some of the harder times. And also, we're thinking about regulation. Well, guess what? Regulation is here. It's I'm not sure where they're going to go, but if they go, hey, you got to be food safe, we're moments away from getting that. All we got to do is go get certified. Mm-hmm. I don't know what our competitors are doing. I don't know. I don't look at their build materials. I don't think they're thinking like we are. So that's, you have to think like that as a company. You have to think about things like that and what you could make you better prepared. So we chose 316 stainless steel. Why 316? Well, 316 is lab grade kind of stainless. It's the top of the line on the stainless for, it's definitely food safe. I guess there's some higher grades of 316L and stuff like that. But the point is that that's way above anybody else's need. Like, nobody's using 316. Everybody else is using 304. Okay, Do we have to?
Hmm.
No, we don't. But I went to my mill and I said, listen, we're gonna do this because we don't want to ever have any question. Like, we're doing the best that we can. So I want to change all of my
Right.
purchasing in stainless to 316. So give me a better price on 316, and we'll stop buying 304. So meet me in the middle, and they did. And because we buy, a lot of steel, so they met us in the middle, gave us a much better pricing on 316, and we buy a ton of steel from them and everything we make. Even the little guards on the outside, the little tags, they're all 316. Because
Wow.
because it becomes such
Yeah.
an interesting thing. You're building stuff and you have all these opportunities for failure. So I just try and eliminate those by not having 304 in the shop. Anyway, yeah. So absolutely thinking about it.
It's a great it's a great way to think, a great way to run your business.
Thank you.
I commend you for that. That's awesome. Um, just curiosity, just going back to something that you said earlier. How close do you think we are from a machine where you could just throw in a bunch of a bunch of plant and then tell the system, hey, I want this many pre rolls, this much oil. How close do you think we are to something like a vending machine
Like a
for
Dr.
cannabis?
Seuss thing, where you put yeah. I
Yeah,
think it's
exactly.
really interesting. We're really
Yeah.
close, and I think I think we're really close.
Wow.
I think it's going to be obviously, if you go onto YouTube, you can YouTube like a mushroom sorter. There's a $3.5 million mushroom sorter, and what's it do? It just size grades mushrooms, and you're like, what? Well, it's a warehouse full of conveyors and movement where they clean, wash, and grade, and then chop the stems off the mushrooms, and then it goes out to packaging. And so, yeah. So I mean,
Wow.
so once companies think like that, and they're starting to get to scale like that, then they're going to start going, well, how do we do that? And that's when we'll really get that financial push that'll make that happen. Right now, we can take transport conveyors from one product to another product, and we can create loading systems to automatically load different products. So, for instance, we can come out of my sorting machine. I can go off to a grinder with small stuff. I can go off to a mid-sized packager with my mids, and I can take my larges off to bulk. So, I mean, I'll just out of one sorter. I just have to move conveyor, so it just goes this way and that way and this way. You know what I mean? So we
Wow.
can already do that kind of stuff. Now,
Yeah.
the question is, like, if I could say at the beginning, I want to change all that. That's going to be a little bit trickier. But a company who says I need to have, I want to. This is what my split is, and this is what it's going to be. Then you can set that up for them. you know, and then if they want to do something different, you can divert. You can say, okay, well, they've run out, they've done their eighths, they're going to switch over to quarters now, and then you start running that. And then you say, well, we're done that. We want to do bulk packaging. Well, you just move everything back into. That's all stuff that we could do today. That's all stuff that actually people are working on.
Wow.
That's just one of the biggest problems that the cannabis industry has is packaging and their branding, and what they want to do is not staying consistent. So they come in and they go, well, these are the package, this is the bottles that I want. And they buy a system to do that. Then they go, wow, we got a new bottle. Our new marketing guy came in and gave us a new bottle. And you're like, he just gave that's a $300,000 bill, buddy, because that bottle doesn't fit in your
Yeah.
system. One of those things that cannabis comes, so they get burned a little bit because they get caught in this. That's why you don't see ADM or what is it? The cereal companies. The boxes are still freaking boxes, man. They don't make them into octagons,
Yeah.
dude. They're not, yeah,
Things
yeah.
haven't
But
changed in a
why
long
would they,
time.
right? Because I mean, they found their. But cannabis is still growing, and so you still got this drive for
Yeah.
marketing, and this drive for image, and so you see a lot of that change. Big, yeah. And so you're
Yeah,
not
I
able
can
to,
see that. Yeah.
if you have a machine that's putting stuff in boxes and then you need it in jars, that's not going to happen. You need a new machine, or conversely, if you're in jars and you want to put it in bags, that's you don't just put a bag in a jar spot, right? That's just doesn't know how it works. So
Right.
there's so much cost involved. So companies are a little bit leery now of making big commitments because they're still stuck behind the marketing eight ball, or again, that they make a big commitment and then marketing comes along and goes, whoa, this jar's cooler. And they're like, hmm, you know,
Right. Right.
I mean, we do it. We buy equipment. We have a couple $1 million worth of equipment in my company that we use to make machines with. Um, I'm not changing that. We're not going to go, hey, let's make our machines round. That's not going to happen. So anyway, but I mean that's ridiculous, but it's funny. That's how it kind of works. So there's still a lot of investment that's required to get that end-to-end system going, and so you have to have a lot of commitment to that, because otherwise your investment doesn't pay yourself back. So you see kind of people doing things in little spaces. Like right now, trimming is really easy. We throw trimming and sorting together, so now it goes in one side and it comes out the other side, ready to do whatever's next. Right? That's a really simple, tiny, small system that can easily be plugged into other things. Right?
Yeah.
So step by step, we're getting to that next level where we'll be putting all of that together, and you'll get exactly what you just talked about. So I think so.
That's awesome. Man, that's some exciting stuff. For our listeners out there that want to learn more about your equipment or get in contact
Well,
with you guys,
Greenbroz.com, Greenbroz.com is where we kind of host everything. You'll find all of our brochures and literature. Access to all of our videos is all through there. We're also on Instagram, of course, and we're on Facebook and all the other fun platforms that are out there. If you Google us, you'll find us on YouTube. You'll find other people's testimonials about us and stuff like that as well. So we're pretty easy to find. You can probably ask anybody that's in the business. They might have run into us before. We've got a pretty good market presence and a good brand name. So that's how it's done.
It's awesome. Well, I mean, Cullen, I want to thank you again for coming on the show. That was a great conversation.
This was my pleasure. If you're out in Vegas, and this is an open invitation, anybody that's listening, if you're in Vegas, give us a call. You can come see. I'll show you how we do what we do. You can see the shop and go through. We're proud of what we have. We're proud of what we do. We're 100% American made. We're 100% U.S. sourced on raw goods. We have to buy some things from Taiwan and some things from Japan. But other than that, we're like 96% recyclable and 98% U.S. source. So, yeah, and it's all there. So when you come in, it's not like you're going to be, we buy this over here and we make everything and then we put it all together in the shop. So it's a really cool experience, and I like showing it off. So just come on out for sure. Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I want to.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we'll be in touch soon.